All right, everyone. Part three of the dimensional analysis digital lecture here. I had a little bit of technical difficulty at the end of the last video, but let's recap really quickly. So we currently are converting the 25-kilometer peak of Olympus Mons into centimeters. So we started out here with the 25 kilometers and we're going to centimeters. That is our end destination. We then use the first plank of our bridge, the 1,000 meters to 1 kilometer conversion factor in that arrangement in order to then cancel out our kilometers in the top and the bottom. Okay, what units does this then leave us with? Well, meters. Is that the unit that we want to end up with? No, it is not. Okay, this is one of the reasons that we write this up here. I know it can be some extra work, but trust me, you need to write out all of this stuff, and it really reduces the amount of mistakes that you're going to have in these questions. And one little mistake can mess up this whole system. Okay, so with that, let's move on. We need to get from meters to centimeters. Do we have a conversion factor that gets us from meters to centimeters? Yes, we have that conversion factor of 100 centimeters to every 1 meter. Okay, so now which version of this conversion factor should we put into our bridge here? Well, we should use the 100 centimeters over 1 meter, because if we look back here to the last step, we've got 1,000 meters in the top, right? So we need to get rid of the meters here and in our conversion factor, right? So if we use this 100 centimeters over 1 meter, that cancels those out. 1,000 meters in the top, 1 meter in the bottom, meter, cancel out, leaves us with centimeters. Is that what we want to be left with? Yes. Okay, good. Now that we have our units, we can multiply straight across on top and straight across on the bottom. 25 times 1,000 times 100 gets us 2.5 times 10 to the sixth centimeters. 1 times 1 gets us 1. So what is, in centimeters, the height of Olympus Mons, the tallest peak in the solar system? That is 2.5 times 10 to the sixth centimeters. Okay, now moving on. There is one final type of conversion that I want to show you guys, and this is converting rates. Okay, so our example is going to be 75 miles per hour, and we're going to convert that into feet per second. Now, this looks a little more involved, but really, it's the exact same process. Okay, so don't even worry about pausing it and trying to figure it out, because honestly, it's slightly different. This very first step is key. So first, we need to get 75 miles per hour into a format that is more familiar to us. So if we think about what 75 miles per hour actually means, what does that mean? It means that every 1 hour that you drive this speed, you are going to pass 75 miles of distance. Okay, so what does this really mean? It means that we can put it into this sort of a fraction: 75 miles for every 1 hour. Okay, this is starting to look a little more familiar now, right? We then take the feet per second and do the exact same thing for it. Okay, so now we have these into a fraction form that we've seen before. This looks a little more helpful to us. So now, really, all we have to do is tackle one part of the fraction at a time. So just ignore either the numerator or the denominator and work on the other part of the fraction. So I like to just ignore the denominator first and focus on converting the numerator, and then focus on the denominator at a later point. So let's do that. So we need to get 75 miles into feet. So what conversion factor do we have that gets us from miles to feet? We have the conversion factor, 5,280 feet for every 1 mile. Plug that in to our bridge in that arrangement, and that allows us to cancel out our miles, okay, leaving us with feet. That's exactly what we want in the numerator. Good. Okay. So now we have the top taken care of. So let's focus on the bottom. We need to get hours into seconds. So do we have a conversion factor that gets us from hours into seconds? Yes, we do. It is the conversion factor 3,600 seconds for every 1 hour. Okay, you can also think of this as 60 minutes for every hour and 60 seconds for every minute, right? So 60 times 60 is 3,600, or you can just memorize this conversion factor of 3,600 seconds per 1 hour. So plug that in into our bridge here, but we need to make sure, okay, we need to cancel out our hours here. Hours are now in the bottom, and we need to make sure that we have hours on the top. So we need to flip this conversion factor to 1 hour on the top and 3,600 seconds in the bottom. What that does is allow us to cancel out our hours, leaving us with seconds in the bottom. That's exactly what we want. Okay, so double check that. Units, feet in the top, seconds in the bottom. Okay, we're good to go. So now we can multiply straight across. 75 times 5,280 times 1 gets us 396,000 feet in the numerator. 1 times 1 times 3,600 seconds gets us 3,600 seconds in the denominator. Reduce that, and that gets us 110 feet per second. So even though this looks a little bit more complicated, we're using rates instead of just single values. Really, it's not that much more difficult. You just need to remember to focus on one, either the numerator or the denominator at a time, and tackle them one at a time. And that allows you to then, at the end of our conversion, to reduce them down. So hopefully that makes some sense. We're going to do more in class on this, but hopefully this gives you an idea, maybe a little bit of extra work, some extra problems that you haven't seen before, or maybe you're just a little nerdy and needed to see some math memes and learn about how to convert values and how they represent nature. We'll see you on Monday, guys. Have a good weekend.